Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Humans of Paddle podcast. I'm your host Max. In this episode, I'm joined by Harris, the founder of PadelOS, a paddle operating system for clubs, including bookings, lessons, etc. In this episode, we discuss the development of booking technology over the years, the use of AI, and how technology can benefit clubs to optimize their operations. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I did. Harris, welcome to Dubai.
Well,
How's your trip been so far?
hot. As we were talking, 45 degrees is just a normal here.
Yeah.
It's a shocker to the rest of the world, but here it's normal.
So we had a couple of conversations. You're here to talk about PadelOS.
Yeah.
A bold move, I must say. I mean, getting into that business. I mean, there's a lot of them, a lot of booking systems. Why did you decide, wake up one morning and decide I need to start my own paddle booking system?
Yeah, so just for that, there's a little history to be. So I have background from tech. My first love has always been tennis. So I love tennis. So I moved to Netherlands to booking.com. And there I saw the whole hospitality industry and see how the whole dynamic is changing between the hotels and the hotel experience versus the booking.com experience and the airline. So there was always this rift happening. And then I saw it in sports, and I really loved to work in sports. So I saw it happening in Playtomic. Playtomic came in, and they're trying to be the booking.com. I'm like, oh, it's interesting space going on. So, but I didn't jump into it directly because I also have a background with a software development company. So first, I work with some clients of ours. So they do Scala Sports. They do all the leagues in Netherlands, and now they're powering leagues in the USTA and LTA in London. And then I also partner with another company which do their tennis in Netherlands. So that's how we start building the first piece of software to get accustomed to what the industry looks like. So I worked for a year and a half in that area to understand. And then I saw same thing is that as a tennis player, when I go to clubs, the experience was very shitty compared to anything before getting to the court and after the court. There was nothing.
Which year is this?
This is about almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
So that's when I partnered with a local Dutch company. They were pretty dominant in tennis, so we kind of did a partnership. And I say I want to go into space, but instead of going alone, let me try to go with some partner and get in. So we partnered with them. They had a good relationship with the local clubs, and we built our first version of, like say, a software under their banner. And we brought on one of the first clubs as a test customer, and that's when I realized that there is a different mindset when it comes to paddle versus tennis. Tennis has always been memberships, old school clubs, but paddle was more about an experience, pay for play model. So then all the club owners in paddle, I found them very interestingly, they are more business thinkers, more consumer approach experience thinkers, whereas tennis clubs were always about a membership. You give it to a membership a year and that's it.
Do you think it's because the sport's newer, or there's more potential to make money in paddle, or why do you think there's that difference between tennis and paddle?
I think with any new things, people try, whenever something new comes, they take the best of the new old and then make it different. It's nothing about the business itself. I think it's obviously it is more social. I've seen, because when I played tennis, I see far more social and fun happening in paddle courts than in the tennis courts. So all the either whether it's the singles parties going on over there or the groups. So I think there's a social factor to it. As a society, we are more used to with more experience. Just as we all were okay with a shitty website for an airline. Now we need a check-in, we need a seat picker, we need. So one of the data I saw was that if you look at even your own phone, 5 years ago or 8 years ago, you had no airline app on your phone. You would buy it from an airline company or from Skyscanner, and you never had an app. Now everybody either has a Emirates app or United or individual airlines they fly frequently with. They all care about miles. They all
That's
care.
interesting. Why do you think that is? Because I mean, you're right. Actually, I mean, 5 years ago, I had no apps on my phone.
Yeah.
I would book through Skyscanner, the cheapest possible option. But if I think back to my previous airline purchases over the past few months, I've actually downloaded the app of that company.
Because now they provide you services. Now there is a reason to download the app because you can check in, you can pick a seat, you might get an upgrade, you might want to go through a faster security lane system, you want to add a baggage thing. None of those services were available in the past. So there was no need to download an app. There was no need to have a relationship between an airline and a customer. Similarly with hotels. Now you will see more and more hotels are saying, hey, download our app, and all these groups of hotels say, we're going to all be like Hilton or Alcor or others. I'm going to give you points. I'm going to give you free drinks, because something has to be offered. I think the same thing was happening in sports, in tennis clubs and others. There was nothing to offer beside a tennis court or any other gym facility. Now you see there's a classes, there's a membership. You guys are offering extra services, lessons, tournament, open matches. So the level of service between a facility and a player has grown. Now, how do you accommodate this? Without either your two ways. Either you hire gazillion people in each club and provide the services, or it has to be automated. And that's where the software piece comes in. So that's where the relationship between the customer and the club has to be established, because now you're offering things. You want to make it easier, seamless, and also make money, and also make sure that it's not a chaos, because you don't want to have a chaos at your reception desk.
Yeah, of course. But for the non-tech savvy people like me, why specifically an app? Why not just log into someone's website? Why has the whole app culture become so big?
Yeah, so there are two things to it. Number one, in the context in general, app versus a web view or anything is just because an app provides you more functionality, more direct accessibility, especially push notifications in the zone, in the location alerts, check-ins and chat and all that. In context of Padel, again, there will be clubs, and when we were launching PadelOS, there were some clubs who don't, let's say I put them two categories. There are clubs who are hobby clubs, and then there are serious, ambitious clubs. Hobby clubs are people who 4 or 5 friends got together, they bought 4 courts, and they see, maybe it will make money. So for them, their customer, it doesn't matter whether whichever platform they are, because services is just one part of it. Then there are ambitious clubs who want to have a relationship, who want to offer services, who want to increase the revenue per customer, engagement per customer. For them, they need power tools. Now, sure, once a customer walks into the court, you can do a lot of the facilities and stuff like that. But as we all used to it now, we need, unlike the previous generation, we want everything pre-planned. We want to pre-book something. We want to make sure it's there when we are there. So then you need the tech. So that's where
we don't want to talk to people.
And we don't want to talk to people, true. But the more than talking to part, I see, understand that even though in sports you do want to come for some social factor, the issue is that our lives are so busy, and we're used to such a structured life that it feels odd when you come to a game of tennis or padel for 2-3 hours, because you invest 2-3 hours of your life in this. Drive here, park, eat, all that, and it's all chaotic. It's just not so for that you need these services in. Hence, the best way to do it is with an app. But as you are managing a club, it's far harder to provide that service on a digital platform if everything is not in sync in the back office, in the team,
Yeah, and
software.
honestly, and I've said this before on the podcast, like a huge key to success, I mean, not just in sports business, in a lot of businesses, is capturing that data, analyzing that data of the customer and see how often they're playing, what time are they playing, and who these people are, and how can I get them back.
Yeah.
Whereas before, people would come and they play, you'd have no idea who these people were. You would just have the money coming to the account, which is great, but then how do you retarget? How do you get in touch with these people?
Exactly.
And all of that is done through tech.
But this is true. But then again, I also say is that a lot of people ask us that the reason they want to maybe work with PadelOS is because of data. But my question is always is that, okay, what are you going to do with the data? Great, you get it. But not everybody is skilled enough, good enough, and smart enough to understand how to capitalize this data. So that's where another problem comes in, that, okay, even if you have it, all these questions you're saying that, okay, I want to retarget someone. The problem is we all get retargeted a lot, but we don't fall for it. So how do we distinguish a good retarget from an annoying retarget which you're just going to block? So just because something can happen and some retargeting and some access to data can happen doesn't mean it will result in a good experience. That's where I think the whole relationship between the club and the customer still has to play. The app and the data is just a tool.
So how should the club use this data?
I think it depends on multiple factors. What I've seen with some of our clubs. So just a context, we're still a new company. The PadelOS in its new incarnation was launched early this year. So we have a couple of clubs, And what we have seen from that experience is if you can tailor something very specific to that club's own locale, then it makes sense. Otherwise, a generic thing doesn't work. And that's why we come in existence. Because my thesis is always that PadelOS is designed club-centric. We're not to dish on Playtomic, but yes, the Playtomic will always, or any of these global marketers will always think of the global experience, or maybe a city. My goal, or PadelOS goal, is to create the experience in that club and vicinity to create the best community experience. So for example, we all have membership ideas. But one of our clubs in Amsterdam, we work with, they're like, say, you know what, instead of just throwing a random membership, why don't we come up with a membership which is only specific for 3 months in summers, specifically targeted for students. And the way it is supposed to be designed is that it's only for the player part, so that I get a discount, non-peak hours, and I encourage others to bring in, especially younger generations. So if I'm a student and I know I'm free, I will bring more students in and more people in to book the court in non-peak hours. So when we started it, he was like, the member like, oh, okay, this is a very specific thing. We're charging 60 euros or more, 70 euros for the membership for 3 months. And the idea was maybe 50 people will use it. It will be a success. I think now it has crossed over 200.
Oh, wow.
Just very specific use case. Now, this is a type of membership which is not common. It's only for May till August. It has very specific restrictions, which our system allows to provide it, instead of a cookie cutter membership. So that, I think, is an example of how you can fine tune the data, looking at, because that club is very close to schools and colleges. It was summertime, and we saw, okay, how to attract the students in, and it kind of worked. So that's an example I can come up with where it's specific. Obviously, I've seen some clubs in UK are very specific on memberships. You guys use membership, but in a lot of other countries, they don't use memberships at all. Like in Netherlands, it's very uncommon.
I mean, even in Dubai, to be honest, it's still not a lot of clubs are using it, because from, let's say, from the club perspective, in theory, you can make more money just as pay as you go and pay as you play. But we've actually realized, having the membership, even if we're making less per hour, overall we're generating more money, which is interesting because people are staying longer in the club, they're playing more often, they're bringing more.
But I'm curious, when nobody was doing it, what made you guys try it?
For me, it was going to be inevitable. It was going to happen. And also, it's a club. It's all about community, and it's about retention. And a lot of the clubs were very greedy of like, let's just charge people and keep charging them pay as you play. We don't care about if they come back. They will come back because there's not enough clubs. But you reach a point where there are enough clubs. What we want to do is create that loyalty from now and have a customer base that keeps coming back, that loves padel art, and that keeps driving the club forward. That was the idea behind it. So probably we could have made a little bit more money like over a 6-month period, but in the long run, I believe it will benefit us hugely to have done this from now.
Obviously, and you guys sell 6 months in a year, monthly and
a year.
And I'm guessing majority are monthly, or
majority are monthly.
Okay. So exactly. So I think the thing is with this industry, when you guys took a gamble, or with the trait of moving to this thing, I think a lot of clubs are going to start making these gambles, and a lot of other things. The challenge is how to make those gambles happen with the least amount of effort. And the seamless way, because that's where we're trying to be, that allow the ability to clubs like you guys and others to experiment without worrying that it's going to be such a nightmare that you're managing 3 Excel sheets or some accounting hassle. Because rest of the tech industry where I come from, they have kind of perfected the art of experimentation. Like if you look at booking.com and some other companies, they are running thousands of experiments on their website every day, because they built the infrastructure and the tech to do it. The challenge is those things are not available to someone like clubs or sports category, because where they can say, hey, I want to try this membership for this type of members and this type of membership for this. But now where do you promote it? If you put it on Insta, everybody sees it. Then there's more calls coming in, why I can't join it. But ideally, just like an airline, if I'm an elite member, I get to pick a seat. If I'm not an elite member, like I see with Emirates, when does the upgrade window opens? Now, I don't have to call Emirates for anything. Similar thing has to happen here.
Yeah. I mean, even with our membership, one of the reasons for its success was because we had our own booking system, I mean, which obviously is part of the conversation we're going to have
Yeah.
today, is because, I mean, we're happy with our booking system. I know you're going to try and get us to
Yeah,
move over.
that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why we reached to you guys first place.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is, I mean, you want PadelOS to move over to PadelOS, and I need to understand why should we do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's good that we can have this conversation, also record it. But one of the reasons our membership worked is because we have our own booking system, and most of our membership is pushed towards match play before 5 p.m.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people available, but people didn't know other people were available at that time. So connecting them through the matchmaking of our own application, which Playtomic wasn't allowing us to do, that was a huge part of our success. So using the tech that we already had, that was instrumental in us being able to make this membership work. And that's why other clubs aren't able to make their memberships work, is because they can't fill the courts at that time, and they can't connect the players at the time where they want to use that membership.
So talking about that point, actually, it's a perfect example of why we think we exist, is that when you did one transition to the other because of his particular needs, which was open matches or some other specific need of approaching a customer, and that's the same place we are trying to pitch you that, hey, we can offer these things, move us. But I think the real game in this space is going to be not about what features anybody bring to the table. It's going to be how fast they can deliver and how quickly they can move. Because the way to win in software is two ways. Either you are so cheap and so fully completed and automated, or you're so fast. Like they're the Playtomics of the world, who have far more bigger war chest and marketing budget. And then they are like us, who I think we only have the chance of winning if we can adapt to your needs the fastest possible in the least complicated and friction way. And that's where we are approaching.
So why can PadelOS do that, but Playtomic can't do that?
So there are a couple of reasons for it. So number one is basically if you're smaller and you're more hungrier and more ambitious, that it's the same thing as saying, why couldn't, let's say, any tennis player in the rank 10 beat Federer or any of them every day? At that moment, you need it's a contact sport. You have to fight harder and harder every day. So there's always the grit factor, which will play in everything. The second thing is with this, what I assume with the Playtomic of the worlds or the bigger, the way they look at it is that they fundamentally want to be the relationship between a paddle player and the paddle sports. So they want to be the wall between it. And the clubs are just a utility which they are providing. Just like a Skyscanner or airline. They don't care which airline you go to as long as you sell a seat through them. Same thing is with Playtomic. And I think for them to make decisions which are very specific to your club makes very hard. For example, we were talking about your request for recurring bookings or how to make open matches very specific. Let's say a group open match we were talking about, or take an example of rating system. Now, the rating system which works for you in this region might be very different than a rating system which might work in Abu Dhabi, which might work in Netherlands. Now, our rating system can be specified for each club, each location, to each particular vicinity. Now, Playtomic can do it, but it goes against their brand of being a global, natural, let's say a global brand for Playtomic. It's very hard to do it locally. So I think that's where the approach happens, that they can't do those things so fast enough, quick enough, and do it in a way that they don't create a mess for all the clubs. The reason we hope to exist, and the reason now, I'm not saying that all the clubs are moving to us, but I do think that considering that we're only in the market for, let's say, 1 year in the development time, and clubs are talking to us, it's like a dating game. We're flirting, but they have not moved. The only reason we can do it is because of the same reason, that they see the pace of their needs being met are very slow.
I mean, I guess if Playtomic makes a decision, first of all, there's the whole hierarchy of that decision being made.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, it impacts every single club. They're not doing a solution per club, they're doing a global solution, right? So would you say that then you're more focused on the club, whereas Playtomic is more focused on the player?
Yeah, so for us, our job is not, PadelOS goal is not to be, when a player books a court with a PadelOS, they should never know about us. We exist. We are just the operation tool at the back end. So for us, the way we look at it is like you use MailChimp, you use other marketing tools. Your customer has no idea. They just know they're getting a great email experience, they're getting a great tool, they're getting a great marketing campaign or Instagram. It's the content, it's the tool. So we want to be on the backside of it. But obviously there are ways of, when you have that view, you have a certain freedom. Like I don't have certain freedom when it comes to being a marketplace, because I can't tell you I'm going to bring you a lot of customers, because that's something I can't do. That's not my core strength. Playtomic or other marketplaces can do that, because they can do marketing on the public to bring more traffic in their app. But what they most probably can't do, and we can most probably do, is go to the nitty-gritty nth use cases of your club and say, oh, that's where the deficiency is. You, as we were talking about it, how you manage a recurring booking, and you say, hey, we do this here, but we do this payments on the site. Like, why are your recurring bookings or group bookings locked on one platform, but the payments have to be managed on other for all those use cases? That has to be brought into the system. And that's where we can come in, because if we can make those operations easy for you, we think we have a higher chance of convincing clubs like you to say, hey, I see these 1,000 small tons of pains. If I get rid of all those minor hundreds of those, it becomes a great, not only a saving, but like pain. Because, and that's where we are specializing in, like how to find all those areas of pain and remove it.
So which kind of clubs would you say you're targeting? Because when we first opened, we went with, Playtomic, and I'm sure, I mean, I'm only talking about the UAE, but I'm sure globally, most clubs that first open, they will go with the generic systems that, will bring
Yep.
them players, because you want traffic, right? So if you're not targeting those, and I don't know, maybe if you can't compete with them because I mean they're the size of Playtomic, who are you targeting?
So our target audience is, as we said, they're hobby clubs and they're ambitious clubs, so or professional clubs. So we're focusing on the clubs which are bigger, which have maybe either multi-locations are the ideal club for us, or clubs like you guys, which are bigger, who run community, who have an ambition to basically either grow the community here. So that's where those are the ones are and especially the multi-location ones, we're talking to most of them. And you're correct that there are some cities like, let's say Hamburg is one city, and there are some clubs over there, obviously I can't name them, but they literally saw our system and they say we love it, but they say we can't move because we have the fear, in this city is very new to paddle. We don't sure whether we can move away from that. And I understand that fear. And I say, you know what? There's no hurry. That's fine. Take a while, take a 6 month, take a year, understand where you stand a year from now, and then you can look at it. So we are not in a hurry too. I think where we, or not just us, there are obviously some other clubs, software. I think wherever so the way I look at paddle is this: there was this honeymoon phase where there was a boom, everybody got on board, clubs were open, people were introduced thanks to Playtomic, thanks to other clubs, softwares like Matchai. And now the industry is going through a stage where it has to consolidate and has to say, okay, where the revenue is going to come, where the clubs who are investing millions of dollars into the facilities, where the returns going to come. What is the operation efficiency of my clubs are going to be? So now I think we're getting to the stage where the hobby and the boom goes, the honeymoon phase goes. Now the real grunt work comes in, where every club has to make money and to stay afloat. And I think, I don't know here, but we have seen this whole Sweden 2.0. They say in Sweden there was a lot of, the Padel Summit, which you introduced me to go. Yeah. They all talk about the same thing, that never to repeat what happened in Sweden. I don't know the much details of it, but what I understood was there was an over supply side was then demand. So in short, those are the areas where we can compete, and we bring with the depth of our features. Like say, an example, private lessons. Sure, in theory, everybody says they have private lessons, or they say they have tournaments. But if you look at our solution, we go to the every extent possibility that, okay, how availability is scheduled, how I can buy one session, but then I can buy 3 sessions together with it with a discount, book one and book the 3 remaining later. How do we do automated emails to the customer again that, hey, the 3 are left with you, you should book it up quickly. So that's where I think we are more in the trenches of the edge cases and the depth of the product, rather than the breadth, like covering everything. So yes, cities where Padel is new, city locations where clubs are totally dependent on the Platomic or any marketplace, we will not be the right fit, or at least right now. But where there are clubs who are bigger clubs and they want to ultimately say, hey, I want to build my relationship with the customer. I don't want to be dependent on a company where if they change the pricing, they change the contract, I can't do anything. Or they worry that we are investing a lot of money in our clubs, but we are not building our own community because we're always competing with the other club. Then those clubs are now considering us or this approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense, and I feel like we were there when we decided to move over to our current system as well. As like once you've built that community, and you want to optimize for that community as well, and that's when it makes sense to move away from the bigger aggregators.
Yeah, matter of fact, actually, I will ask you a question that, and if your answer is what I'm hoping is, then I will use that as a soundbite for my marketing, because you guys moved from Platomic to another system.
Correct.
And I'm guessing, financially speaking, it was not a downward, it was an upward. Your revenue, I guess, did not get as hurt as you were maybe was that time worrying going from Platomic to the other.
I mean, the first month
Yeah.
it was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
There's always a teething period, especially when you move to a completely new system and it doesn't work as well as you'd hope as well. That can also cause a bit of tension. And we wanted to move away from everyone messaging us and calling us to book to book through the application. Also, the timing might not have been perfect because we did it kind of in the winter. So obviously there were more options for people to play outdoors than indoors. So maybe doing it at a more peak time would have been better.
Yeah.
And it took a little bit of time for people to download the app, start using the app. And we only made bookings available through that system.
Yeah.
You could not book through phone call or through WhatsApp.
Which is not very common here in Dubai.
I know. I mean, people are getting there now, I think. But I mean, still for a lot of services, people just want to pick up the phone or send a message and get someone else to do it for you. It's very much a service culture in Dubai. So we were forcing people to use this application. It was the only way that they could book courts with it. So we took a little bit of a hit for a month. Like we had about a 25% drop based on what it should have been. But for the past 18 months now, we've seen considerable growth and better than where we were before, which is what we want.
Exactly.
So much more knowledge of our community, etc.
So as I said, this is the perfect soundbite for us.
It's good for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's where a lot of clubs feel the fear of any system change, especially going from a marketplace to a non-marketplace, because it has two advantages, or because now you're the, as they say, right? What is the proverb? Like you're the captain of your own ship kind of situation. Now everything is in your own hands. Obviously, if you're good with it, you can also grow bigger. But if you don't want to take the control, then obviously it's safer, but then the growth doesn't come. So in your case, because you guys have been focused on this, the growth comes. And obviously now we're trying to convince you guys to see how do we increase that growth further, right? That's the game, ultimately, that whichever system or whichever processes any club is following, if we can't increase the revenue, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why would I?
Exactly. Why would anybody entertain anyone change the system? Because why would go through the hassle of going through it? So one of the reasons I think, and why, again, a lot of these things are about timing. I mean, if a lot of people know about this or maybe don't, that at the time, I think when Facebook came along, there were 100 and something social networks. And MySpace was already a winner. Then there was another one called Orchid, and then there was a few others, and then Facebook came along, and still, sometimes timing is everything. So I think, at least I think, that's why we took a bet on this, that the way a lot of old systems were being built in the last 10 years for tennis and others, they were not built on the new tech stack. They were not built in a way that they could be faster, better, user-friendly.
So what does that mean, like for people who aren't particularly tech?
Yeah, so think of this way, right? Think of a simple way of the cars. The cars used to come in 10 years ago, they were clunky, they were big. Now all your modern cars have thousands of features from China and others, and it's because the tech has enabled them to build the factories which can produce all these complicated stuff. Plus, it's electric, so all the experiences, the dynamics in the car, they can be software updated. So the car is almost like a software computer now. It's no longer the mechanical device we are used to. Similarly, the softwares in sports categories today, whether it's Padel or anything, built in the last year or two, are built in a way that are far more faster to, it's just a technological leap, far more faster to upgrade, far more quicker, easier infrastructure to do all the things we are promising to do or providing our customers to do, versus, let's say, something which was built 10 years ago. And you can see that friction in every part of the world. There are companies who use, airlines who use like old SAP systems, and you know it. When you go to their website, you're like, this software has not been updated. And then you go to the new fancy airlines, and they have these fancy, beautiful apps and experiences. At the end, the SAP can also do it, or old, but it's just old clunky software. You can't overnight convert it. It's just sometimes the timing is also the thing. Maybe we will be also challenged ourselves. Somebody other will get up in 2 years from now and will challenge us.
Especially the tech space, it changes very quickly, right? And everything is moving very fast. And 10 years in that space is a really, really long time.
Exactly.
But obviously, like the buzzword at the moment is AI. Everything is AI, right? So are you using AI in PadelOS? How will it come into booking systems? How do you think AI is going to change the future of the way that we book a paddle court?
So one of the reasons actually I got into this space was because of my interest in AI. Because obviously, as a tech person, you want to get into the space. But my problem was that how do I get into the AI? Like, how do I use AI in an industry where I can make a benefit to the industry itself? So just to context, there are a lot of AI companies you will see about ChatGPT, HRs, and others, and there's a very heavily populated industry right now. So I don't want to go there. So I thought, okay, what's the best way to do is apply in sports. So if you look at any sports operation like yours, you have people, you have operation, you have stuff. So that got me excited that if I can automate most of it, then I think I'm really putting the use of proper AI rather than a buzzword AI. So how does it look like in PadelOS today, in maybe 6 months from now and a few years from now? So today we hardly use it much. We use it for a little bit of our own development and all that. What we will see in the next few months is, let's say, a more refined version of ChatGPT, where you ask questions, you as an administrator, but it gives you very specific answers. For example, you say, why can't I book a court at this time? Why it's giving me error? Then it will say, hey, it can't book a court because you set this policy, and at this policy in this settings, that's why the system is not allowing you. Or you say, hey, why Harris's payments have not been done? Then it goes to the system and says, hey, because his credit card was changed. His previous membership was on a credit card, old, which got expired. Now he has to put a new credit card. So go ask him to update the membership. So we're trying to answer your questions with a very specific data from our system, rather than giving a cookie cutter answer, go to settings, go to memberships, and find Harris and do whatever, So that's step one.
Because now we click on everything, right? It's all
exactly. So that's what's coming in the next 6 months for us, that how do we almost become your very specific answer machine, which you maybe call me, like, hey, I can't understand why it's happening in the system. So that's step one. Step two for us will be AI is obviously taking over all your support. So we're working with some clubs that say, instead of you answering all the customer supports, we will be your level 1 support. So all the customer queries to your club will come to us. The players will still think they're contacting PadelOS, but they're actually contacting our software. We will answer their questions. You can't do this. Your membership is not working.
So it'll be like a chatbot kind of thing.
Yes, it will be a chatbot or a voice thing, and your WhatsApp number will become our number, and the call can come to us.
Because it's crazy, even now, even though we're trying to force people through the app. If you go to the reception, we literally have 2 receptionists sitting there, typing away constantly, answering people's questions.
Yeah.
And so it's so much time that they spend doing that.
Exactly. So that's the, let's say, the first real vision for our AI, to take away that hassle, so that those people of yours can focus on the customer experience here. They can make more tournaments, more fun stuff in the vicinity, instead of dealing with all these administrative issues, which actually a software can do easily. So that's the near term. The little longer term will be where I think where the AI should, for us, is going to happen is that ideally there should be a max agent, in the PadelOS, which you basically pick your phone just like you do with ChatGPT and say, hey, the last 3 tournaments which were really good, can you schedule tournaments in Padel Art for the next 6 months, which makes the best sense? Use the best text, use the best, most usable image artwork and all that, and it automatically looks at that, creates it, and drafts it and creates it for you.
So basically, I won't need to do anything.
You will only need to approve and give guidance. So if you look at recent videos, I don't know if you have on our Insta or TikTok that much, but you've seen all these funny videos of gorillas doing a point of view made by VO3. It's basically AI generated videos where they show in the 90s, let's say in the 1700s, a guy is walking with a mic. Exactly.
I'll put one of those.
Yeah. Or the gorilla saying the point of view, whereas he's talking in an accent. Now, if you look at all those videos, those funny videos, where's the creativity? It's the person who's writing the script. The guy who comes up with the idea that I'm going to use a gorilla to have an Australian accent and talk about protein and workouts and how I'm going to, that concept is the killer feature. The output is generated by VO3, the model.
So the creativity is still there.
Exactly. So in your case, the long-term thing is basing on looking at the customer data, looking at the thing, what is the best tournament and best form of tournament should happen in which day, or what is the best group which will have the best open matches with each other, what type of activities we can do on a everyday basis here to drive the best experience for tournaments, for matches, for one-on-one communication. The problem is maybe you will hire someone to do it, and that one person, he or she is amazing. But then there are thousands of clubs all over the world, how they find the similar talent. So this is where we come in, that okay, based on the understanding of your data and the knowledge of the AI, you can automate a lot of these things where you're basically literally just like ChatGPT, you're chatting with the system and telling him your wishes. I wish I could do this kind of a game here, and ideally it should happen.
Could I mean, this is more like a futuristic thing. It's probably not even that complicated, but from my perspective, could I somehow put my knowledge of the operations of a paddle club into the system where it would make decisions based off how I think? So let's say, part of my job is I schedule tournaments throughout the year, okay? Or I decide, okay, we need to do more events for this level, these kind of basic tasks. Instead of me doing that, could it automatically or suggest, at least to them, like, okay, you guys are doing all this is good, you should do this. I mean, it's kind of back to what you're saying, but without me being the creative person behind it, I could feed it my knowledge or my analysis of certain use cases, and then, well, then I'd probably get fired because I wouldn't be needed anymore. But then it could operate as a manager on my behalf.
It can, but the thing is that what is the input? The input is already there in your system. So when you have created all these events and tournaments in the last 6 months, that's the input. Let's say you created a tournament or an event or a training at 9 a.m. versus 8 a.m. and you saw that 9 a.m. were all sold, but 8 a.m. were never getting sold on a certain day. Now, the thing is technically the data is there to actually work with you to say, hey, can you make all 8 o'clock trainings? The system should automatically say, great, but I think the 9 a.m. is better on Tuesdays but 8 a.m. is. So I think it's more of not of a just like replacing you. That's where the debate of AI is. It's actually augmenting your skill set. Just like we use ChatGPT to not replace me, but improve me. So this system ideally in the long run should help you, give you a feedback that maybe you should not do this, or maybe you should do this. Similarly, it's as simple as when you write a title of an event. Ideally, just like ChatGPT or any of these is, when you write a title, it can suggest you that, you know what, maybe instead of saying this in this title and maybe use these words, it has a higher chances of so it's all these small cognitive things we do every day, which you're doing every day, picking a time, picking a description, picking an image, picking it, let's say, for example, all the events and trainings and tournaments you do. I know it's very hard to create a poster of it and then putting on Insta. But technically, if you look at it, if I look at the description and I look at the Padel art assets and artwork, I can generate a beautiful video of it instantly, UAI, and then automatically post it on Insta. You don't have to do then other label work of creating, oh, who's going to make a poster of this tournament, who's going to make a poster of this thing. The thing is this, it's like, as they say, a death by 1,000 cuts. Similarly, it's a growth by small 1,000 steps. You have to take these small steps to get the aggregate growth you want to grow. And it's not going to be this one big bang thing you're going to do, and all of a sudden your revenue is going to grow 10% next month. It has to be all these minor things you have to do. But the problem is, not everybody is good at it, and it's so much work that sometimes people think, is it really worth doing my headache for this, because it's too much repetitive work. So that's where I think the AI can help.
So how far in the future do you think we'll get to that?
I don't know about how far the people will get, how far we will get it. I think, as I said, our goal is by in next 6 months, we are already working on this agent piece where some of these things can be automatically replicated, helps you with titles and descriptions, and helps you with automation saying, hey, this type of thing can be sent out in alerts and all that. I think where it can also get to the point by the year end where you can literally write, say, can you create 3 tournaments from me using the best descriptions and the best titles for the winter? And it will create it, but it will save it as a draft. And it's not published, it's saved as a draft for you to see it.
Okay.
And then you can review the last one and before you publish it. So I think that these automations are, our customers will see it in next Q3.
And will it reach a point as well, because we mentioned earlier, now when you book things, you click on everything and you do this. Will it be like I can type, book me a call Friday, 5 p.m., and it'll book it for me?
I mean, technically, that's also possible right now.
Really?
It's not that hard. It's not actually anybody can do it. We can do it tomorrow. The problem is this, that if you use your own experience from ChatGPTs and others of the world, people don't like to type a lot.
Yeah.
And for these repetitive, simple tasks, the current experience is really good enough. So I don't think so. Use cases like booking a court will make sense. Where the case will happen is the best case will be a player will say, you know what, I want to do a training this year, and I want to, as we're talking about it, I want to go to level XY in next 6 months. What do I need to do? And then it comes and talks to our agent, and the club says, hey, you want to go to this level? I think you should do 10 sessions, 1 training, and play with 10 games, and these are the players you should play with. Now, the player says, oh, I want to play with these 50 players you recommended. Can you communicate with them to book me a session, coordinate courts with me? Because I have to now message 50 people and say, are you available on Thursday? Are you available Friday? So those are complicated things which AI can really help. But court booking is such a rudimentary, simple thing, it will never help. Yeah. It's these complicated things where players will say, that's where the aha moment for all of us, or I don't know if you guys have used ChatGPT to extent, but I sometimes use it really nicely in some cases, whereas we say, like, all the feedback we get from customers, like the clubs, all I do is I dump all those emails into a ChatGPT and I say, hey, these are all the customers' feedback in different emails and chats and voice chats have come to me. Take them, and from the tone of their voice notes and the tone of the text, prioritize them and make a table and then put it in Excel. So I asked my club managers to send me voice notes, and I just copy the voice notes, put into it.
So if I want it to happen soon, I need to make sure that voice note's very aggressive.
Exactly. So ideally, if you're talking about the real AI, ideally, instead of typing, you should be just telling them, just talking into it. Like, yes, that use case I do see, that you pick up a phone and say, hey, book me a court at 3 p.m. If 3-1 is not available, book it at 6 p.m. And if 6 is not available, book at 9 o'clock. Doing these 3 things is where AI can help. Because now,
like Siri, I guess, that's kind of like,
yeah, or like your personal assistant.
Yeah.
You said, okay, I can play at 3, or I can play at 6, or I can play at 9. Book at any of these 3 in this priority. This you cannot do. By doing this, you can speak, and that is something we're going to target for, dude. Like, where it's more than 1 step.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that are going to come in the next 12 months. I mean, obviously with tech, AI, and through booking systems. And we discussed a little bit about how, you're focused on the clubs and the benefit for the clubs. But what would you say what's your 30-second elevator pitch, let's say, to a club manager is listening to this, and it's like, okay, it all sounds very nice, and spaceships coming in the future. But right now, what's your 30-second pitch for a club, let's say me, for Paddle Art to become a customer of PadelOS?
I think I never liked this 30-second pitch thing because it dumbs it down to some sound bites, and those sound bites never really
Well, you can
convert
put
into.
that soundbite into ChatGPT and see what
No,
ChatGPT says about.
yeah, I mean, I tried it. It's funny enough. I tried putting all our marketing material in ChatGPT and say, give me a one-liner, two-liner, and it always comes up with these generic words and all in one platform to do all your bookings and all that. I think the challenge is this, that and there was, just to go back on context, this elevator pitch idea. This actually worked really well 10 years ago or 5 years ago because everything was easily explainable. Like people will say, book a taxi anywhere, that was Uber. Book a hotel anywhere, that was Airbnb. So those taglines really worked in that world. Today, if you say those taglines in today's world, they will be like, duh, obviously I can book a taxi anywhere. If you ask that to the next generation, they're like, what are you talking about? That's not. So I think I don't have a 30-second elevator pitch for this, but I do think is that the way we see is this: if you're a club who fundamentally believes that we want to grow our revenue, and we want to grow our revenue by having a direct relationship with the customer, then which are the best tools possible out there in the marketplace which will help me do it in the least complicated way? We think we are the best tool for doing that.
I think that's a very good elevator pitch.
That's how I can put it.
That's relatively simple as well, isn't it?
Yes, only if the clubs, it comes with the nuance that if there's clubs who are listening to it and they say, oh yes, I want to do it, I want to be the one who want to have a relationship with the customer, then yes, PadelOS will resonate. Then there are a lot of clubs, you will also know, they will say, I don't really, I set up as a hobby project, I put it on, I really don't know who the customers are coming in. As long as somebody keeps sending me the customers, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I think the keyword is good enough.
Yeah, exactly. So for them, they will just skip my 30-second pitch and they'll say, yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, the word relationship and engagement and all those things. So I think that's where it becomes, is like there's a certain segment of the clubs who it resonates with, and that's where we are pitching them and trying to get them converted.
I like that. That's quite good. PadelOS, by the name Padel.
Yeah.
In the future, are you planning to extend beyond Padel? Do you currently only operate for Padel? Are there other sports involved?
Yeah, so obviously we do multi-sports. We do tennis, we do squash. Some of our clubs are also using it. Matter of fact, some of our clubs are also bringing in gym memberships and restaurants and point of sale. So it's all combining. The reason I came up with the word PadelOS was the idea was same. We don't want to be a closed system. So we came up with the Padel operating system, and the idea came because I wanted to build a system where everything can be integrated. So if you're working with a third-party tournament system, or in Dubai you have WPPR, you want to integrate. There are in Amsterdam, there are a couple of companies who are providing very niche events. There are expat groups. There's something called High Five. We're trying to work with them. So I'm saying instead, you as a club manager has to go to each one of them and figure out a way to coordinate with them and all that. Ideally, you say, yeah, I have this system. Great, log in, here's an account for you, and you should. So ultimately, my goal is to create a system where a club is an operating system. It can work with any package as long as the club is in control of the data. Club is in control of who has access, what policies, who can do what with my players, because what I see is the club is the one who has made the maximum capital investment in this industry, nobody else. So they should be in charge of deciding what it. The rest is all allowed, just like you use Slack or your operating system, you allow some softwares to come in and all. So that's how we came up with this name and take it with that approach.
Okay. So what's the goal? What's the plan in 5 years?
Oh, I wish I can justify it I can sum it up in my head as exactly what it is 5 years. But I would say as my North Star would be that if we could be the company, not just in Padel, but in anything where pretty much all the human resources, all the clubs spend, the capital they spend, it's not focused on the operations, it's not focused on coordination, it's actually focused on how to create the best experience for the players in the club, and everything else is automated. So it's not that we are reducing the number of people in your staff, but all your people you have in the staff, they are creating special tournaments. You hire more trainers, you hire more tournament organizers instead of reception people who can do all the operation, accounting, payrolls, everything else should be done by us. The rest should
You
be
think the accounting as well, you can do that?
the goal is eventually yes, because I think the way the world is happening is that a lot of these clubs and sports categories, anything, use generic accounting softwares, and then they have to modify and smudge the data. Let's say a training lesson has to be broken down into 50, let's say 50 sessions. Now all accountants go crazy that I want it this way, this way. So I think eventually we will want to be in a situation where we can do all of it in the same software, so that it's less headache on the club. So already, as one of our clubs in Germany, we had to rebuild a lot of our VAT structure, because VAT
What's that?
the VAT, the VAT in the Germany is very confusing. And because if you are a member, you have a different VAT. If I'm a non-member, I have a different VAT. If you are a member and you invited me as a guest, then I get a different VAT.
Why?
Regulation sometimes can be pain in the ass. So in this case, it is. So we had to modify a lot of these things, but without making their life hectic. So if the North Star will be a few years from now, you are literally managing this club with the least amount of people in the operation, and everything is done by us operating. That will be the North Star for me.
That's quite an ambition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's technically it's not possible. It is possible. The challenge is how to do it in a way that you have the right access to the thing. As I said, you can do a lot of these things even today, but you have to combine 6 softwares. So it's not unheard of. Obviously, it also depends on the market of Padel. If Padel as a sports keep growing, if it, as we are hearing, it's going to go in, maybe go into the Olympics, maybe it will be part of the US college system. If it grows as bigger as we think, because it's funny enough, somebody was talking to me that day, yeah, that Padel is an interesting sport where it's the fastest growing, it's the most popular with most of the younger generation, but you can't name one professional player. Most of the people.
Most people, yeah.
Most of the
very
people
much
can't.
an amateur game still.
Whereas in tennis, most of the people don't play it, but they can name most of the top players. So I guess it's a sport where it's going to grow, where it's more being played. There's no.
Yeah, I mean, the amateur side of Padel has grown a lot more than the professional side of Padel.
Yeah.
Especially in the past 10 years. I mean, the prize money's increased, but the visibility of the players is ridiculous compared to.
And in a way, it might be a good thing. I also think, because I for myself, because when I see professional players play, I don't know, they play at such a crazy level that sometimes it's disheartening. When I see Roger and other play, I'm like, I can never hit the shot like that.
Yeah, tennis, no chance.
Yeah, so it becomes like you're trying to emulate that experience. I think the way I like Padel is because it's a vacuum of its own, and everybody is new, and you're playing, and there's no structure.
But you need the top, like the famous is a big word in Padel, but the top players to be known to also inspire the younger generations to play, to compete, and to push to become professional. That's if the sport is going to continue to grow. And I mean, it's never going to reach tennis, but at least.
I mean, in theory, yes, but you would, the joke is that I was talking about trying to read, and actually I asked ChatGPT about it. There are a lot of other sports activities you do, hobbies, which there are no experts. Like even board games, people play poker and all these cards. I mean, if you look at it, there's big businesses, gambling and card game, but you will not know a single professional player.
I mean, professional poker was big for a while when it first came online. Everyone
exactly. So, but there are no, let's say, as you say, celebrities in that space, but you will enjoy playing it.
True.
And so I don't know. With Padel will be a category where it will be something like a Monopoly game, where everybody loves to play these board games and have every in the house, but yet there is no single tournament of Monopoly, and whereas, or it is something you just watch more, or it's consumed more. I don't know.
I mean, any sport like paddle and squash that has a glass or some barrier on TV, they tend to struggle a bit in terms of viewership because of the experience, the viewership experience from the outside.
Yeah,
you're a little bit disconnected from it all.
But it's better in person.
It's better in person for
Yeah,
sure.
because you can see a lot of games, you know, just stand there and watch each other games. But in tennis, obviously, it's a bit more spread out. So I enjoy paddle watching in person way more than in TV, because also the sound effects, the bang, and it's far more faster, whereas any other sports could be much more. But anyway, that's a different. That's a different.
I mean, the sport's growing. It's going to be exciting to see how it develops from a professional perspective, an amateur perspective, from a tech perspective as well. I mean, what I see is there's two main challenges for you, right? There's keeping up with the tech side, making sure the app is still, you know, leading at the forefront.
And bug free.
Yeah, bug free and working. But then you have also that customer acquisition side, which for any business is always a challenge. So how you manage to keep those together and growing together, that's going to be an issue for you.
That is a challenge, obviously, in any business. That is, and I think part of that can be answered by you if I switch the question and ask you that where do you see paddle art, and what are the things you want to see in this club in next 2 years, let's say. So if you tell me what are the 3 things you will like, because that wish list is my gateway to do things, because
I mean, to answer that question, I mean, increasing revenue, which I think is any business wants that.
yeah.
Customer retention, and I mean, for us, it would be to grow our junior academy. I think would be the third one, which is something we haven't done yet. Also, due to what we're discussing, the sport's still growing, so getting kids involved, that's the future as well. Off the top of your head, how would you use PadelOS to grow a kids academy?
I think, I mean, to be honest, I haven't thought about as the kids academy. I said the only thing we have been seeing is that, especially from Netherlands, a lot of training happens over there under academy. So one of the things we are working a lot on is in our system, we're actually creating a PadelOS training account where academies can log in and they can create their own accounts and manage all these trainings. So we're trying to build a system where, because in tennis and other categories, the academies are very well structured because they get a lot of requests from different levels, so they have to coordinate it, and then they have to schedule with available trainers, and then they place these trainers in different clubs. So one of the ways I think that we're going that up of the food chain, as you can say, or the chain, is that also provide the trainer schools, the software, so that you or any other club can say, I am partnering with this trainer in this training school. I give them access in PadelOS.
First, we need that because organizing kids sessions is a nightmare because you want different ages.
Exactly.
And then, you know, you want to do one for one age group, another group at the same time, so both kids can come from the parents.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting the just the idea of it gives me like, you know, makes me sweat a little bit because it's always a headache when we try and start planning the kids academies. Like there's so many different things that need to be taken into account. It's just so much easier with adults. So there's definitely a lot to explore there in terms of putting that into a system where we can easily structure kids academies without Excel sheets.
Exactly. So the way we tackling it is that instead of trying to build like a half-baked training module for clubs, we said, okay, why don't we build a training club account? Now, a club can be a training and a club also, or it can be just a professional training institute, which can, because let's say in Europe, there's a lot of training institutes who work with a lot of clubs. So if we can solve that complicated scheduling problem for them, now it can also be solved for the club. So that's how we're trying to reduce that friction of between the trainers and the clubs, if we can make the whole process seamless, so that you don't no longer need to sell courts in advance, that you just give an access to the trainer. Even right now in our system happens, you can invite a trainer and you can say he or she can only have this much hours a week or month, and they can book it, they can sell it through your court, and then automatically the report is generated. And we don't even want to go down the path where even if you have a deal of a revenue share, then at the same point of transaction, you know, if I pay for a training, 80% goes to the trainer, 20% goes to the club at that instant in their own individual Stripe or bank accounts, instead of trying to deal with all that money in the later. I think steps like these will eventually help us train more people faster, and maybe it will help contribute in a way of growing the sport.
One thing that I would like to see in the applications, and what I haven't seen in any of the current softwares that we've worked with, is in terms of optimization and then reutilization of a cancelled court or cancelled event or cancelled booking or lesson. So let's say I cancel my lesson this evening.
Yeah.
That slot just stays empty unless the reception sees it, or we choose to push that to WhatsApp groups. What I would like to see is this lesson's cancelled in 6 hours. All the players that have a lesson, who have had a lesson with this specific coach,
Yep.
are then retargeted, like, hey, this guy has become available. Would you like to book this lesson? Book it now on the app. I would like to see that. Is that possible?
That is underway. So
No,
that,
really?
yeah, that is underway, and we talked about a little bit about it. I think we already are giving, let's say, for example, in your current system, in our system also, you get automatic alerts for open matches. If you are the right person for the right open match, you get a push notification alert. I think the same logic has to be applied for all of these things. The challenge is to do it in a way that you don't over bombard the customers, they unsubscribe, as we all get a lot of emails and we unsubscribe. So, and also build in a way that your staff can actually give these instructions and say, you know what, send a reminder to all those people who play, but not everybody. Generally send it to the people who are generally playing on the Tuesday at 6 p.m. Only send it to Tuesday people. Because if I've never played at Tuesday 6 p.m., the likelihood of me playing at Tuesday 6 p.m. is very low, for whatever reason. Because I might do a gym workout that day or something else. So I think the system has to be a bit more granular and smarter. So that's what we are working on right now, is that we're taking some baby steps in a way that technically we can do it. The challenge is how to do it in a way that you're not bombarded with a lot of push notifications.
Could you, for example, from the player side in my app, choose which
Exactly.
notifications I'm interested in?
Exactly. So the idea is, instead of forcing, is to guide the customer. So even right now we say, hey, do you want to get an open match alert once a day or anytime the one match?
Because we have some people who are like Padel nuts. They will want every single possible notification, like every match, every trainer. They want to play all the time.
For them, it's actually better to just keep opening the app, because you can see a lot of it. I think it's like, in our case, we send open matches daily report. We say, hey, these are the open matches tomorrow and day after tomorrow, who you might be the right fit. So we send it every night. Then we have a feature where people say, hey, I want an open match alert every moment. The moment it's created, I want to be the first one. But then the thing would happen is, like, if cancellations and all those happens, it's like, okay, who do you reach out to? So we have some tools available, but I think in coming months, I can show you that how do we do it in a way that it's not about only one thing. Because it's not about just canceling the booking, right? It could be about canceling a tournament. It could be if someone dropped out of some other thing. How do you do all of these without overwhelming yourself and overwhelming the customer? And for that, that's where the right balance has to be. I think we have the right solution, but we'll have to show you in a few months when it's out.
Well, in that case, you'll have to come back in a few months and we'll have to rediscuss it.
I mean, if you said, you asked me the goal for next few years, I would say the goal for next few months would be, I'm coming back here and you say, now Padel Art is powered by PadelOS. That would be the
bold statement, but let's see. Time will tell. Thanks, Harris, for dropping by. Yeah. It's been a pleasure talking about PadelOS. I wish you all the best. If it's not with us, it will be with other clubs, and who knows, maybe our paths will cross again.
No, I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Harris.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Sure.